Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Playback Podcast with the extension of the Legacy Project. And today I am overly excited, probably too much excited, because I have literally whom a lot of people call my best friend in the world. I don't do the whole BFF thing, but I think he is because I think he know all my business. Literally, great organist, great musician, great singer, great teacher, great person. I want y'all to welcome Jeremy Davison to the Playback Podcast, to the Legacy Project. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, bro.
Man, thank you so much for being here. And again, I am so excited to do this.
Yes, sir.
I had to ask him a couple of times, y'all. Jeremy don't like to do this kind of stuff.
Mm-mm.
He hadn't accepted his call into public speaking. So y'all pray for me. Y'all pray his strength throughout this whole thing, because he probably just walk off and say. But yeah, bro, let's go from the beginning, because a lot of people only know you for your gift, right?
Okay.
Tell me when you started playing, and tell me who was the first person to acknowledge that you had something.
I started playing piano when I was about 3.
Really?
Yeah, I was 3 years old. My grandmother was a musician,
Okay.
and my aunt, all this on my dad's side, was also a musician. And she had a piano in the house, and my mom said that I would always go in there messing, with the keys or whatnot. And she said my grandmother told her one day, because she was always our babysitter, she said, "I think that boy in there playing something." And the more they kept listening, it sounded like I was actually picking out what I was hearing from someplace or another. So, yeah, about 3 years old, that's when I started. I guess I maybe about 5 when it actually started really sounding like more of something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So did your grandmother start when she heard an inkling of this might be something at 3? Did she start training you? What was it like from 3 to 5?
She did. I can remember she had some little books that she would kind of teach me out of. Okay. Some basic reading. My aunt at the time lived in and out of town. Okay. When she would come home, of course, she would show me some stuff. But I was playing in F sharp by the time I was 7. I think we got a video.
Wow.
With me playing. It was the one finger.
Yeah.
It wasn't in like a white key. It was like F sharp.
Yeah.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 3 to 5, and 5 you start realizing you're still like a very, very young child.
Oh yeah.
So you would say it was your grandmother that realized that you had a gift.
Mm-hmm.
So after 5, what happened then? When did you start? Did you get opportunity to play at a church or?
When my grandmother saw that it was something, my mom and dad bought me this little toy piano. I think my mama still got it. It was a Cookie Monster piano, actually.
Wow. Okay.
And it might have had like, I don't know, like an octave and a half of keys. Terrible tuning, but I could still hear what I needed to hear. Then she bought me a piano, a small piano, kind of like maybe Charlie Brown size, and it had 2 or 3 octaves.
Okay.
But it was little keys. Sounded more like the real thing.
Got you.
I was playing, and I went from there to, of course, the big piano, and I was actually playing for a church when I was 10, 9? Like
9 or
getting
10.
a check.
Were you 3rd grade?
Yes. That sounds about right.
What is it like playing for a church in the 3rd grade? You wasn't teaching parts.
No, I
you
wouldn't
were
even
just
open
there
my mouth
playing.
at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it like you being a baby, a child, playing on the playground, but that evening you going to somebody's church playing?
I was going to choir rehearsal, and actually, of course, I played for my home church because my grandmother played there. She played piano. But the church that I was actually employed at, I think it was like once, maybe like 4 Sundays, once or twice a month, something like that. But I was playing organ. And it's funny, my dad always tells a story about I was so little at the time. And when I first started trying to play the organ, he would say, "Boy, get from down there. You're going to fall down between them pedals." because I was so little,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
couldn't reach the
Yeah,
pedals.
yeah.
So the lady that I played with, it was an older church. She still living, Miss Tommy Rayford,
Mhm.
and I just went and I basically played along with her. She taught the choir. I just played what I heard.
Uh-huh.
I think it was a good start because some things it was hymns, and
Mhm.
she actually read the music.
Yeah.
I wasn't reading it at the time. I just heard it, but it gave me a sense of what it was supposed to sound like.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, it was cool. Just being around a lot of old people,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And you are old, so
Yeah.
let me ask you this because I've asked everybody else. Do you remember, and let me preface by saying, when I asked this question, the going rate was between $25 and $50. Do you remember how much your first salary was?
I think the church that I was employed at, maybe 50,
So right about yeah.
$75.
It wasn't $100.
Oh no, absolutely not. When I first started, let me say this: no shade to my church.
Yeah, God bless him.
When I first started, I was getting $11.
Wow. In cash, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think that was probably coming from a piece of what my grandmother was getting.
Why 11?
I haven't.
Were you 11?
No.
What we gotta ask somebody what 11
I don't know
mean
what
in
the
biblical.
I don't know what the relevance of $11 was.
You could have just gave me 10.
Yeah,
I would have much rather, cause don't give me a
but
10 and a
$11.
1,
Yeah,
or
11.
2 5s and 4 quarters. Don't do that to me.
11
Okay, let me
bucks.
ask you. Let me ask you an even slightly deeper question.
Mm-hmm.
So your aunt and your grandmother played.
Mm-hmm.
Were you close to your grandmother?
Very.
Let me go back a little bit. Did any of your siblings play?
No.
So you were the first person to play in your household with your siblings.
Correct.
So I asked that to ask, did you feel a sense of, being that y'all were close, you and your granny, did you feel a sense of like you had to do something to, was there a sense of pressure to do well, being that this was something that connected y'all and she played? You know what I mean?
Musically? No. That was never. I never got that. I never got that feeling from. No.
So it stayed just a hobby or fun for a while for you.
Yeah, but it was just natural. I mean,
It's just a thing.
It was it was effortless.
Yeah.
I did not start having to struggle to play and learn something till years later.
Yeah.
It was just whatever I heard, that's what I played. And it was usually spot on. Hindsight, I guess what I heard and played then was more like the choir parts.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about playing to hear the accompaniment versus what the choir was singing until I was almost grown.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah, it was just something that happened naturally. And everybody, of course, that boy's a gift from God. And, even at my teachers at school, I was a prodigy to them. They saw what I was doing. We didn't really have anything music-wise in elementary. No more than just, I don't know. I'm 41, so we had this care class where we did sticks.
Yeah.
Some other musical, like the recorder.
It wasn't nothing in depth, like
but
piano
nothing like
and
what's
vocal.
going on today.
Yeah.
No, not until high school.
Well, I just know the stories of like Matty Moss Clark. I can just think of something like that, like an older school person. And I never met your granny,
Right?
But I'm just off of what you're saying. I just wonder, with you being the first, are you the oldest of your siblings?
My siblings, no.
Okay.
I'm next to the oldest.
So with you being the only one, I was just wondering, and y'all were close, if she felt the need to push you harder. You know what I'm saying?
Musically.
Yeah. Like train you almost, in a sense, because you did have a gift, and if you anything like you are now as an adult, you probably didn't take it as a big deal at all.
I didn't.
So did you ever recognize that it was something that everybody else couldn't do?
Oh yeah. LaDonna Inslee was one of my piano teachers, and I was young when Mr. Inslee taught me. I can't remember exactly how, but with him, he showed me that I had perfect pitch.
Okay.
I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
But he had me to turn my back to him while
Yeah,
he hit a note.
and we're gonna do that in a minute.
Yeah, he hit a note. I hope it still works. Why he did a
I'm
note.
gonna brag on you and everything. And, then,
And you know, he was just surprised.
you remember what age that was?
I may have been around 10.
Oh, you were still a child.
Yeah, I was young.
I thought I assumed you was like 15, 16.
Oh no. This
So
was all of this happened.
You knew about
early.
perfect pitch at 10. You knew that you had perfect pitch at 10.
As a matter of fact, I'm just trying to think because I pulled out a video. My dad recorded everything.
Good.
And I pulled out a video of a recital that I did with Mr. Ansley. So if it was a recital, surely by that point, he knew about me having perfect pitch. So I may have even been 8.
That is crazy.
I was young.
But you realized 8, 10. You
Oh
had a
yeah,
gift. It was
nobody
something
else
different.
could do that.
Okay, great. Because I know when I was growing up, I didn't have the natural ability. I had to work for what I ended up getting.
I hear some other people say that.
But once I got decent at 15, after working my butt off to get decent, I realized, I thought then, I'm sorry, that I was just playing drums. Everybody can do it. I didn't realize it was like hard until I started teaching a few years ago. Because I see people that don't have any musical background, their family don't play drums or music, and they struggle with left hand, right foot, left foot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That opened my eyes to like, oh, that's just not just playing the drum. Because in church, to be completely honest, they say beating those drums.
Oh yeah, that's what
they
look
just
at
beat
it
them
as.
drums.
They
It's
don't
not
see it as an
playing. They don't say, oh, he's playing that organ. He's playing that keyboard. He beating them drums.
Yeah.
Which is asinine to me because it's like, that takes a whole lot of
Yes, sir.
skill, discipline, timing, confidence, focus.
Yeah.
You know? As playing keys and bass and everything has its respective I guess things that it requires, but drums is not easy.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
So you start taking lessons at 8, possibly. We're in elementary. What other hobbies, like what did you do being a prodigy and being so amazing at a young age? Like what did you do in regular life?
I'm giving you a look. Truly, the piano was it. And the reason why, because when I was young, I had asthma, I had allergies. I go outside for 5 minutes, and I come in the house and look like I've been whooped with a cat of 9 tails. So I didn't go outside. Huh?
You know who else was whipped one?
Our Lord, thank you, Jesus. Thank you,
And,
Jesus.
and I asked that because I've asked most of the people, because we grew up in it so young.
Yeah.
We didn't have, and I don't want this to sound like bad, but we didn't have a life.
Yeah.
You know what I
You
mean?
didn't. You really
'Cause
didn't.
if it wasn't sports, if you wasn't fortunate to play sports, you probably was a nerd. But all you had was school, sports, choir rehearsal, school, sports, church.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked, like, did you even find any other hobbies or interests or likes growing up because you was possibly so consumed with, oh, we gotta go to church, you gotta play piano, you gotta,
That
you know
was
what
it.
I mean?
It was the piano for me. I started finding around the 4th grade that I was inclined more to anything that was artsy.
Yeah.
Sewing, cooking. I always, and I'm sure you're gonna ask me about it. I always knew that I could do something with hair because, ironically, while my dad's mom was the musician, my mom's mom did hair.
Okay.
So
So
I
that's
got it
how
from
that.
both sides.
Okay. I got you.
So that was something that I kind of did a little bit or saw. I guess I wouldn't say it was a hobby because I wasn't doing it at the time.
Yeah.
It just happened.
Yeah.
But it was just the piano.
Yeah. That's
Practicing
what
on the piano.
Yeah.
I had a keyboard. like with beats.
Yeah.
I got a video on Instagram
That's funny.
from way back.
Wow.
With I had a regular piano that actually Mr. Inslee gave to me,
Wow.
and I had a Casio keyboard on the top. I'm playing the piano down here, and I got a beat on the top.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
gotta
I
see
hate
that.
them now.
Yeah,
But
I'm sure.
but
I'm
you know,
sure. So how long did you take lessons?
I took it was off and on.
Okay.
Mr. Inslee, if you know anything about playing by ear, most music teachers will tell you it's gonna end up crutching you.
Yeah, for sure.
Because what you hear, you're gonna want to play it versus reading it.
Yeah,
Mr. Inslee was good enough that he could see when I had memorized something, and he would say I wasn't reading it.
Opposed to reading it, yeah.
He threatened me and told me he was gonna hit me with a bat
If you didn't read it.
if I didn't read it.
Okay. Is that why you quit?
So I quit.
What age was this?
I probably was 10. I'm telling you, all this stuff happened. So I took
possibly 2 years of lessons.
maybe 2 years with him.
Did you go back?
No.
Did you do lessons somewhere
with
else?
somebody else. Yes.
Okay.
Um,
So I'm trying to see how long
yeah.
you were
So
training with someone.
right. So I did it with him for about 2 years. And no shade to Mr. Inslee. Mr. Inslee, we laugh about this today. He know the story.
And he made you better.
gave me the piano.
Yeah.
It made me a whole lot better. It exposed me to some things that I probably wouldn't have gotten exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
I had lessons with a lady named Miss Barbara Harris. She basically taught me out of the hymn book.
Okay.
And
And that's the kind of church you were going to, the hymn type.
Right.
Okay.
More or
what
less.
Okay. So you needed to know that.
Yes.
Those type of songs.
Yes.
Okay. Got you.
I can remember one thing that she taught me, and a lot of people with the blood that Jesus shed for me. Dun, 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 dun. It's the timing, and a lot of people play it wrong.
Wow.
But she taught me that all those years ago, and I'll never forget that.
Wow.
I took some more classical lessons under a lady named Miss Roberts.
Okay.
She taught me at a church in Rayville. I might have took her for about a year and a half.
So
year
you
and a
had some
quarter.
classical training also.
And she taught me some Beethoven and some Chopin and stuff like that.
Let me ask you this: was that stuff as easy or come to you as easy to play physically?
The classical?
As the
Not
gospel.
then, no, because it was a totally different pattern
Yeah.
of playing. And once I got to the classical part, I really had to. With gospel, I was just playing.
Yeah.
But I had to really focus on my fingering, really focus on my scales,
Yeah.
and watch what I was doing. And it didn't come as
It was
easy.
a challenge.
Yes.
And you can't guess with classical music because I used to take piano lessons for a while also.
It may not
With
do
gospel,
what you think.
can guess what's coming next.
Absolutely.
Because it's like
It's a
the
pattern.
same pattern. Classical,
No.
ain't no way in heck you gonna know what's coming on. next.
Uh-uh.
And if you don't do the correct fingering, you gonna trip up and end up playing the wrong thing.
Correct.
Because the finger is putting you in place for the next phrase or the next page.
Correct.
So yeah, I just was curious about if that was because you were so good at that age. Was it just I was great at gospel or I was great at just playing? Period. Because classical is a totally different beast.
Yes.
Let me ask you this: around that time, so we'll say you started really 6, 7, coming into your own. Were there any people that you looked up to as far as like piano players or anything?
That young, 6, 7, there was nobody else but my grandmother
Wow.
and my Aunt Lily. At that age.
And go up all the way to like that because we're talking about 10, 11, 12.
Piano players, 10, 11, 12.
Anybody that you just gleaned from or that influenced you?
I had an uncle that lived out of town. He played piano, of course. I would watch him, and whenever they would come home, he would show me some things.
And then, y'all, we didn't have YouTube back then.
I didn't even know what that was.
So there's no way, like if you wanted to hear somebody, meet somebody, see somebody, wasn't on social media, you would have to go to the church.
Right. The Wheeler sisters in Rayville.
Oh, yeah.
Tammy Wheeler, Sharon Wheeler, Sylvia Wheeler. Some of them played piano. I'm just trying to think even with Mr. Chucky, I didn't really know anything about him until later on.
Yeah.
I guess for me, it wasn't as much about. Although I was playing, I was not as enthused with the person that was playing as I was with the choir that was singing.
Got you. I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this: how did you develop at this young age, and you don't know anything about being a professional, anything? How did you develop your sound? Well, it's a two-part question. When did you know that you had your sound, and how did you develop that? With the previous question being, who influenced you? What were you listening to? Who was teaching you? You know what I mean?
I think until I got to probably about 12, I was everything I played. It had some influence from my grandmother,
Okay.
but it had a lot more influence probably from my aunt. My grandmother was born in 1932, so she. But believe it or not, and when I didn't know it at the time, but when we were kids, I think she was pretty close to being up to par as far as the modernism of what music was at the time,
Okay.
which was Andre Crouch, and some of the people like that with their modern music, which was what was on the radio,
Gotcha.
KXLA radio station at the time. And after that, I started playing at Mount Zion in Rayville, Mount Zion Baptist Church, with Demetric Trent.
Okay.
You remember him?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. That's when I started learning. I didn't even know who the Clark sisters were.
How old were you?
12, 13.
Oh, okay. So this is lining up. I got you.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll even give it 13, 14.
All right.
I didn't know the Clark sisters. That's when I started knowing more specific music artists. Now let me back up because I don't want to forget about when I played for Rave Community Choir.
Okay.
I played with a guy named Thurman Brown. He did a lot of we did a lot of more modern music like John P. Key, Kirk Franklin. I knew who those guys were.
Okay.
But I didn't know now what I would say more of the Church of God in Christ side with the Clark sisters, Betty Nelson. I didn't even know who Don Lawrence was.
Wow.
Any of those people, because again, like I said, we didn't have YouTube or anything like
you
that.
weren't exposed to that.
But when I started playing with Mr. Trent, to go back to your question, that's when I feel like I began to get a sound of my own, and a lot of that probably gleaned from him.
Okay.
That's when I really learned how to play the organ.
Okay.
I was playing it before, but let me tell y'all, if it's any organ that you have ever seen that's not a hammer, it didn't matter what it looked like.
Yeah.
It didn't matter how many some of them didn't have no drawbars. Wow. It was just a Baldwin, some kind of, I can make any kind of organ at that time, any kind of piano. All the pianos we went to these churches was out of tune. I just played it. I made a sound. Yeah. It was a joyful noise in Jesus, and that was that. Okay, but but to go back, when I started playing with Mr. Trent, that's when I started seeing the different settings on, because Mount Zion has a A100.
Okay.
Still has the same one. That's when I started seeing the different settings on the organ and how you make it sound a different way. I didn't know anything about that. So I got a lot of influence from him as far as making my own sound and what I wanted to sound like, and then I started hearing from other people that I had a specific sound that they liked. And when other people played it, some people that I've played for over the years, I had such and such to play for me, and they did a good job, but it wasn't you.
No, I understand.
I understand. So that I would say around that age, Mount Zion time, 13, 14. So, until then, I wouldn't even teach a part, open my mouth.
Yeah. So so is that the age you transitioned from piano to Oregon,
more or less.
or when you started?
Because when I got to Mount Zion, he was playing organ and I was just playing piano. But at some point he left and I started playing organ.
How difficult was that? Playing organ, learning organ.
It wasn't hard.
That's both hands, both feet, right?
Yeah, I think anybody that's an organist, we all started playing on the top board only, just the feet.
Okay.
I didn't know about the difference in working your bass or whatever high sound you want to have on the top and using your bottom for padding or chording. And even at that time, I was beginning to tinker with it, but I wasn't just fluent with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, 13, 14. So we junior high, headed to high. No, we're in high school.
Yeah, 14.
Like
I was
a
in the
freshman?
9th grade.
Okay.
Think
So let's fast forward. Junior high school. Let's talk about high school. Did you do any extracurricular stuff then? Choir, band, anything?
So I was in the band 6th grade, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade.
Playing.
I played the alto saxophone. We were in Rayville High School junior and high school. And as a matter of fact, I think it wasn't very many of us that he would allow, the band director, Mr. Herman Wallace. I don't think he would allow many junior high students, not from that young, but the saxophone had nothing to do with nothing. I think he told me, this is what I want you to play.
I was just about to ask you, why did you pick that?
And that's just what I did.
Did you get good at it?
I did, and I kept it for a long. I kept that saxophone for till I was in my 20s.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about you playing.
Praise
Praise is what I do for at a church.
I had gotten good with it. Of course, I could hear the same way, tone and everything. The sound of the keys. The alto sax is not one of those instruments. If you know anything about band instruments, some band instruments, because it's transposed differently, it's not gonna sound the same on one instrument as it will on another.
Is it still an A?
You would have to write it. You would have to score it differently to get, because like you have, I can't, don't quote me on this, but it's B flat trumpets or F trumpets.
They're all tuned differently.
So,
but I'm not. So if you play an A on
a saxophone,
play an A, hold an A, it's not gonna sound the same as an A on
a differently transposed instrument. No.
Wow.
You would have to score it differently, write it musically differently for them to be able to play the same note.
Wow. That's crazy to even think about.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of work too.
Yeah, for a band director, I give kudos to Gilbert.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do. I wouldn't want to do that. That's a lot to write music out for a whole band of instruments, different keys, different. Yeah.
So and you stayed in the band until what grade?
To the 9th grade.
What kind of student were you in school?
Well,
academically,
I passed. I'm just gonna be honest.
You wasn't a nerd?
No.
Really?
No. I was at choir rehearsal. I'm just being straight up. My parents actually threatened me and told me, if you don't get these grades right, we pulling you off of that piano.
And that made you straighten up?
I guess enough.
Because were you in love with playing piano, organ by high school?
I think I was to a certain again, it was just natural.
So it's never been like a big deal.
Not at that age.
Yeah.
No.
Were you making more money by high school?
Yes. By the time I got to high school, I still might have been 150s.
But you weren't teaching or nothing.
Yes, I was.
Okay, we'll go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a separate thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you wasn't a nerd.
No.
Most musicians are.
Let me tell you about that. So, I think if I had focused more on my books, my studies, I could have done better. Mm-hmm. But I had honor roll until I got to junior high. When I got to junior high, I started making C's.
Yeah. And then you were playing more too by the time.
Right.
Got you.
And when I got to high school, I was still making C's, but math was hard for me. I actually just barely passed. Like when I got to the algebras, I just barely passed.
It literally don't make sense.
But when I got to college, that turned all the way around. But it was a simple matter of because and now I've done some other things, but with math, you miss one step, you lost.
For sure.
And I don't care if you be lost for the next 3 years, you're gonna have to go all the way back to the one step you missed, and then it's like a light comes on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't a nerd.
So what kind of social school person were you? Were you popular? Were you the loud guy? Were you quiet?
Quiet. I was quiet. I've never been one to have a lot of friends. And it ain't no sad story. I just didn't.
But you seem so likable.
Probably now.
And then you were, and we talk about this all the time on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Church popularity doesn't always translate to school popularity.
No, sir.
And church life is different. Like you got a different set of a different set of friends, different personality most of the time than you do when you go through the doors at your school.
Yeah.
So you probably had way more confidence at church.
I did, and the popularity, if you will, that I would have had at that time came with teachers and adults.
Wow.
Not with other kids. I mean, there was nobody at that time playing like me.
So were you overly, because I know you personally, and I know you grew up with much older people.
Right.
Were you overly mature for your age?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So the stuff in high school really wasn't for you?
No. I went to one prom. I never went to any dances.
Yeah, me neither.
The only reason why I went to games probably was because I was in the band at the time. So
that stuff didn't interest you, or you just didn't have the time?
I wasn't interested in it.
Wow. Like at all?
No. I think I tried. I feel like I tried with some sporting events just to try to fit in.
Yeah.
But I just didn't feel comfortable. And even playing sports, I tried to play volleyball. Everybody sees me even now. Oh, you so tall. I know you played basketball. No, ma'am. I know you was killing them on the court. No, ma'am, I didn't. It's just, and I say it just like that because I didn't, and I wasn't interested. I didn't know the first thing, and it's long being in the band for 4 years. I knew that whoever was on this side, your touchdown was supposed to go
the opposite end.
The opposite end. That's about it.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'3".
When did you become 6'3"?
Probably when I was 12.
I got a question though.
Probably when I was about 12.
So when they see you coming in 7th grade, did any of the coaches said, "He's tall," and they asked you to play something?
Never.
Really?
No. Let me tell you. And when I was in middle school, Coach Larry Wilson, I hate anything PE, anything like that. I think I got an F in PE. Because I wasn't about to do none of that. I wasn't finna dress out, and I had asthma. I think I've got a doctor's excuse from the doctor. I'm serious. But we joking about it. But I really, you crazy. But I really couldn't do it because I had asthma so bad. I was walking around with a pump.
Was bad. Okay.
Yeah, but even if I didn't, I wouldn't want to.
Oh wow.
And so I went from PE to everything from like the 6th grade was ROTC.
Yeah. So they knew, and Ray was so small.
Yeah.
Half of the people related, so they knew he ain't finna play no sports.
And they knew I was playing for the piano for church.
Yeah. So that was your job.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that consumed your life.
Yeah.
So before I ask about after high school, you to me are one of the best vocal arrangers, one of the best singers, background vocals, leaders, period. And you know how picky I am about that stuff, and I mean that. When did that when did singing come into play? Because did you find out about playing before singing, or how did that go?
Singing was much later. I started the first song I sung. I might have been 11.
Why did you sing?
Cause my grandmother made me. If anybody asks you who, well, no, that was my brother.
Did he know you could sing, or was one of them? I mean, you a child and you in the Sunshine Band, or
More or less. It wasn't a no I could sing. It just made me do it.
Yeah,
I think that's the wrong song. But anyway, I sung that one song. Then I didn't sing anymore.
Okay.
Until I just stood up in church one time at Mount Zion when Mr. Trent was there, and I led a song, and everybody, of course, Ray was small. Good, you heard that Sid Aaron boy, he got up and sung a song and tore the house up. I didn't even know he could talk.
Did you know you could sing?
I think I did.
When did you know?
Probably early on, like
But you
9, 10 age, but I just wouldn't.
would you say you're shy?
Oh yeah,
Like overly shy?
yeah.
Me too. And people think I'm lying.
Yeah, I'm very, when it comes to certain things, as I've gotten older, I've learned that, you got to talk. I've learned to
Likewise.
speak up for myself.
Likewise.
Because if you don't, people will run over you.
Yeah.
But
And you'll miss out on a whole lot too.
yes, you will.
Just
gotta
by
talk up
not
for
saying
yourself.
anything and letting them know I'm available or I'm willing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, 14, you stand up in church and sing. You remember what song that was?
It was like His Eyes on the Sparrow or Because He Lives. It was
And-
like a solo.
So from there, did we start singing? Did they start expecting you to sing on a regular?
I think around that time, even before that solo, I had kind of started teaching some parts at Mount Zion. I had to have, because they trusted me enough that when Mr. Trent left, to just step over into that position, and I know I was teaching parts to them.
Let me ask you this. You were teaching parts, I'm sure, well. But you mentioned earlier, instead of playing the accompaniment, you were playing. So is that's how you were confident in teaching parts? 'Cause that's what you heard the whole time.
Gotta be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And being so shy, I'm just connecting the dots.
Mm-hmm.
When you started teaching 12, 13, how was that, being that you were shy, you did not want to talk to, and you're a child,
I was going
teaching
to say, let's not leave that
the
out.
senior choir?
Oh,
I'm assuming.
sir. Yeah. I could tell you some stories about that. As a child like that, trying to lead adults,
Lead them, yeah.
they don't want to hear what you got to say, and you better sit down before I whoop you.
Yeah,
You
because
know.
there's still that element of you're a child.
I had to, and it was, I don't know, I probably was like 15, 16 before I just really got the grasp of commanding that respect and getting it from a group of adults. Once they really saw, okay, he really know what he's doing, so we better listen to him.
Yeah.
But early on, no, they would do it, and and even still, we had a youth choir at my home church, so I worked with the youth choir. That wasn't a problem. I did work with our adult choir some at my home church, but my grandmother was still living at the time. We did some small things, but once I went to Mount Zion, and then on to Macedonia, because I was playing for both of them at the same time, I was really teaching them. Once I got past my home church, I didn't really have as much of a problem.
Wow.
But at home,
It's because they know you.
yeah,
I mean, you're a child.
and it's family.
And that's Jeremy.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, I'm over exaggerating when I say you don't tell me what to do, or I'm gonna beat you.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, you're not used to taking instruction on this level from somebody that's
A
this
literal
tall.
child. Yeah.
So
Whether
it
they
was
know what they're
difficult.
doing or not.
It was difficult.
Yeah.
So, but my grandmother, she stood her ground for me.
Yeah.
Joyce Smith, she stood her ground for me as a child. They knew that I had it. My parents they stood their ground for me because they knew what I had and they knew what I was trying to give, and of course it wasn't coming from a bad place.
Yeah.
And yeah, from there, that's when I went on to build even more confidence when I got to other places. Home is nice, and if you can stay home, great.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, you just end up having to veer off and do something different, and it's unfortunate, but it's just the truth.
That's just the way it is most times.
Yeah.
So we singing, we're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
When did you get in the position? What age were you when you went into the position for? Was it a Trent, I believe?
Mm-hmm.
What age were you? Were you still in school?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Probably 16.
So at that time you were
16.
playing, teaching, like bringing and preparing the music,
Mm-hmm.
but you still were trying to go to school.
Oh yeah, I was in high school at the time. In high school I was playing for Mount Zion, and Mount Zion had, I think at the time, gone like first Sunday 11 and second, third, and fourth at 8:30, and then I was playing for Macedonia, which was second and fourth at 11. I played somewhere else on third Sunday mornings, and fifth Sunday was always. I didn't go. I just kind of went wherever I want, but that's only 4 times a year. And of course, I was playing for Gilbert.
Yeah.
In
high school.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And he mentioned that the other day, and it made me think. Even before Minister Gilbert Wilson and UICC, Minister Gilbert Wilson and the Anointed Voices, it was, I forget the name. It was another choir before that. But even before that, it was the Morehouse Parish Association.
And he was over there?
And he was dealing with that. And I've been playing off and on with him for a long, long time.
So how did you, I know you said academically it was tough for you because your focus wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But time-wise, how did you balance? First of all, you just named like 3 or 4 churches,
right,
along with
as a
association and all that other stuff. And then ain't no telling what other community choirs you play with around that time.
Right.
So how did you balance as a teenager, mentally, emotionally, and even physically, doing all that and still going to school?
Well, like I told you before, musically, it came natural.
But you have to find songs and prepare them, though, right?
Yeah. By that time, with Macedonia, I wasn't alone. I was playing with Thurman Brown.
Okay.
So we kind of shared the responsibility. And Macedonia had a director, Miss Mary Ricks. But Mount Zion, when Mr. Trent left, it was me. And Tina Spencer was there at some point, but I think that may have been later on.
Okay.
But just trying to do my schoolwork, I don't ever remember it just being a major struggle of time, because choir rehearsal was either on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. Out at 9:00. We didn't really have a lot of afternoon type programs or through the week revivals and stuff back then. Not regularly.
Yeah.
To where it affected me much, but I think my mind just was my heart was more so with the music than it was with school stuff.
I got you.
Not that I just didn't study. I still made some A's and B's, made a lot of C's. No really D's and F's, except for, like I told you, with math, I made a couple of D's. I think I made one really bad F, as far as a grade, like 6 weeks grade, that could have kept me from going on. You got to have certain classes. But I wouldn't say that it was such a struggle. Now, if I had been doing something else, like you saying football, basketball, that wasn't gonna work.
Yeah,
but it worked out.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just fast forward junior, senior year.
Mm-hmm.
By that time, you had way more responsibility. You playing at the church. You over the churches.
Mm-hmm.
What was the plan and I guess the aspirations, period, for after high school, post high school?
So, ironically, when I was a child, I wanted to be an obstetrician.
You a weird person.
Yeah.
Okay.
My-
Go.
I did. When I can remember being asked, "What you want to be when you grow up?" I want to be. I said a baby deliverer. Of course, an obstetrician. That passed. And when I got to high school, I changed schools in the ninth grade, and in the 10th grade, I went from Ravel High School to Mangum High School, still in Richland Parish.
Okay.
But I did that because I knew I didn't want to do band, like, because I had heard about all the band camps and marching and the boot camps and all that.
And you
crap.
can't be outside.
I ain't that part. I didn't want to be outside.
Yeah.
So I wanted to focus more on choir.
Okay.
So Mangum had a choir. Went to Mangum 10th, 11th, 12th grade, graduated.
I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
thought you graduated from Raven.
No.
So that was like a business future decision
Yes.
to better yourself as a choir person.
All that.
Wow. I literally didn't know that you went to Mango.
Mm-hmm. I graduated from there. And
That is
and
crazy.
actually I loved it when I think back on it because Mangum was much smaller
Yeah.
and my home church is further out in the country in that area.
Okay.
So my church friends, my church family, they went to Mangum.
Okay. Makes sense.
So
Okay.
it was more of a family oriented type.
So you
deal
saw
out
them
there.
7 days a week.
That part.
Wow.
Okay, so when I graduated high school, I actually got a scholarship to Alcorn.
Wait. So senior year, you didn't want to deliver babies no more.
Oh no.
So what?
I have
So
forgotten all
your
about
senior
that.
year, what was the plan, or what did you aspire to do?
I think it was probably gonna be like a music teacher.
Music teacher. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And you got a scholarship offer from Alcorn.
I did.
Did you get offers from anywhere else that you can remember?
No. It was Alcorn because at the time Gilbert was going there or had been there. Another guy from Ravel, Allen Ward, knew some people there. Between the two of them, I went to Alcorn, auditioned, got a full paid scholarship.
Audition for.
Music, choral music,
Okay.
choir part.
So you got a scholarship for the choir.
Yes.
So, okay. Okay.
Well, a music, a vocal performance. is
Okay,
what it- vocal
okay.
vocal performance or vocal music education.
So it's no different than getting a football scholarship. Like you got to participate in said thing
Yes.
to continue. Okay.
Had I went on with that, I would have had to be in the choirs. I would have had to be part of whatever musically they had going on. I would have had to do it to keep my scholarship.
So your thought, 12th grade, was okay. I'm gonna go to college. So you did want to go to college coming out of high school,
Yes,
and you wanted to be a teacher,
I did.
a music teacher. You said.
Yes.
Okay. So we get a scholarship. We audition, get a scholarship, go to Alcorn. Well, how long did that? Like, how did that go?
I got grown and I went for a semester and came home.
Really? Did you get homesick? How far is Alcorn from Ravel?
About an hour and a half.
Was that your first? Although it's not far,
Right.
was that your first time being away from your family?
Yes.
Do you feel like you got homesick?
Yes, and it was just by the time I graduated high school, I had a full out clientele doing hair,
Wow.
and I was playing for all those churches that
Wow.
we mentioned.
Making all the money.
And what I should have done, per the advice of some other people, I think even Gilbert may have told me, I should have dropped that and started find me some churches in Mississippi. Is what I should have done. But I didn't want to leave my people.
Yeah, of course.
So I quit.
So you were doing hair in high school, doing well in high
Yeah.
school, playing for all these people. You chose to go an hour and a half away, but you continue to play here.
Yeah.
So you would come an hour and a half every
weekend.
Did you come during the week?
I can't remember if I did. I think I
But
did.
you were here on the weekends for sure.
Yeah, I think I did come home through the week some too.
What
Had to.
about your hair clientele? What happened with that?
While I was gone, I think I would come home like when I got out of school on Fridays, and I would do it Friday and Saturday.
So you spent your whole weekend working.
Yeah.
Okay. How were your grades in college?
At Alcorn, they started out good, but then I just started slacking
Yeah.
and just stopped going to class, and ultimately You know,
Came back on home.
came on back to the house.
So let's talk about that.
I love the music part of it now.
But it was the core classes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I ain't do nothing with that.
Did you feel a sense of defeat, failure, anything because you didn't complete or didn't stay long?
I have as the years have grown. But you know,
Then you didn't care.
I don't think I did at that time. I'm just gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I was like, look, I'm gone. Yeah,
Well, you just didn't want to be there.
I just didn't.
So after that, you come back home and it's back to churching and doing hair.
But I knew I had to do something else. So I think so cause I sat out when I graduated high school. I sat out a semester, and I went to Alcorn in January. Just say I was back at home by the end of that semester.
Mm-hmm.
I came home. I think I worked at McDonald's
Wow.
for 3 days.
Literally. 3 days.
I couldn't do it.
Okay.
And I was doing hair, and there was a beauty shop across the street / highway from where I was raised. Girl who I knew, I didn't know her, but she was a popular hairstylist at the time.
Uh-huh.
And she knew I was at home doing hair.
Uh-huh.
So she just called me one day. She said, hey, I know you probably don't know me, but I've done your mom's hair. My name is Gene. And I know you over there bootlegging. She said these words. And it's all good. I want you to know I'm not trying to call to, rat you out or nothing like that. But it's this program where you can come and work with me in the shop, get your license. Because from what I've seen, you're doing a really good job.
Wow.
But you need to get your license.
Okay.
So I went with her, did that, and thank God for that. Because, I mean,
You was going to be bootlegging for the rest
I
of your
probably would have been.
Because I was about to ask you about schooling. Did you ever go?
Oh, I went to beauty school. Too. Somewhere in between there, between Alcorn and this. I went to beauty school, but I already knew mostly. I was full out doing hair, so it was boring.
Yeah.
I quit.
So let me ask you this: were you content with, excuse me, as she called it, bootlegging? Like, did you have a plan to open your own shop? Like,
No, I didn't have a plan to open my own shop. I was 19, 18, 19. I knew I had it. Excuse me. I knew I
you
had
said school was hard
to
for
do.
you.
I knew I had to do something else, but I really didn't have a direction.
I'm saying why? Because besides hair, which I'm assuming made you some good money, and playing for 30 churches, why you felt the need to do something else?
Or when I say something else, I knew I had to do something more than just bootlegging hair.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I got you. I thought you meant add an additional.
Right.
Okay, so you go work with her, you get your license.
Right, and I did that for.
Still, it was still playing.
Yes.
Okay.
I worked in that shop, I think, about 12 years.
So during that time, let's say early 20s, what did you aspire to do? Like, what was the goal? Did you have one, like to eventually own your own shop or music school or anything like that?
Yeah, it was more so to get my own shop, but it wasn't I wanted to be in a shop by myself. So I just wanted to get a shop like on the back of my house or whatever, and I tried that in a couple of different instances, but I wasn't owning a home at the time.
Yeah.
So that was a little
do
bit
what you wanted to do.
right.
Yeah.
But once I actually got to the place where I could, yes, I came out of the salon and I just got a space by myself.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. That's what I
And
got.
that was your goal. Let me ask you this: hair and playing in church, both of them are jobs ultimately.
Absolutely.
Which one takes the back seat, and why?
Which one takes the back seat?
Like, if you could only choose one to be your occupation, let's just say for the rest of your life, which one would you choose, and why would you choose that? Because you're great at both of them. Yeah.
If I had to choose one, meaning one and don't do the other at all,
Right.
it would be music.
Because you've been doing both a long time.
Yes, it would be music because while I used to have a really strong love for doing hair.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like it, I hate it anymore.
Yeah.
Not that I hate it now, but just over the years, it's become more of a job.
Like a task.
It's
Yeah.
and with anything, there are seasons,
Yeah.
and people don't all. I'm used to a lot of older people. But now the thing is lace fronts. I hate them.
Yeah.
To do them. Yeah. And it's just not something that you kind of have to grow with the times on that. With music, you have to grow with the times. True enough.
Yeah, but you can find.
But I can find my way a little better in that.
And you can also always go somewhere that hasn't grown with the times.
That's true. It's always gonna be a need.
Somewhere. Your type
somebody.
of player is going to be needed somewhere.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with hair in a sense.
Okay.
But if I had to make a choice, it would be music. Yeah.
Do you still love to play?
I do.
You still get joy from playing?
I do. And it's a growing, evolving joy.
Like it's a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like a new joy.
Mm-hmm. With some part, because even though I've been playing as long as I have, I make the joke with some people that I know. I feel like I could retire because I literally been playing
since you
30
were 11.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I told you in the beginning of the conversation, early on it was just so natural. There was no fight in it.
Yeah.
It was just effortless.
Yeah.
You just do it.
Yeah, I got you.
I'll say that when I started playing for UIC, well, was it UICC? Yeah, probably UICC. Anointed Voices, not as much. Anointed Voices was somewhat of a learning curve or a push. But when I got to UICC, I had to really buckle down. When I mentioned to you about not knowing how to separate accompaniment and choir parts as far as what you're playing. It was a little heartbreak there.
Yeah.
Because I thought that what I was doing
was the right way.
And not that it was wrong, but once you get past just Sunday morning playing, when you're talking about recording, and playing for, even if it's not recording, playing for different groups and other ministries and different denominations and whatnot, there's a different expectancy.
But not only that, Jeremy. From the churches you come from is typically organ, piano, and drums.
That's that.
You start playing for these, bass. But when you start playing, people don't understand. When you start playing for these choirs and artists, there's bass, so you got to get out of that way.
Yeah.
So you can't do this,
and it's even hard for me to do that now.
You know what I mean? So people don't understand. Like you playing with the guitars, so your chords got to match them. You playing with somebody playing colors or playing aux. Y'all got to be playing. So I understand the challenge even from that aspect, because it's like you got to get out the way, and play your part. Opposed to being
the
chord,
all things
the
for
bass,
everything.
the voicing, everything.
That's still hard for me today.
Yeah. Wow. Have you ever felt like you wanted to quit music?
Oh yeah.
Like, have you ever gotten close to saying I'm not playing no more?
Sir, I didn't get close. Yeah. I did. Yeah. I was telling somebody about this not long ago. I got fed up. Probably in my 20s. I don't know what the cause of it was, honestly. But I got fed up with something or somebody or some group of people. And I said, you know what? Y'all can have it.
Yeah.
And I quit playing for anything and anybody for a whole year.
Wow.
And I just did what I wanted to do. I just went from church to church, Sunday to Sunday. And
so let me ask you this. How did that make you feel, being removed from literally physically playing? Because I'm sure at some point in your early 20s, you possibly had joy still playing. That probably was your outlet. I don't I don't know what your outlets are, but I'm assuming playing music is one. For that year, what was that like? Did you feel like dead in a sense?
I think maybe in a way you could say that. I think in the beginning there were, again, I can't remember what really was the cause. I'm thinking it was some type of angle with somebody or some group of people. So in the beginning I was mad. It didn't matter what I felt.
It was emotional. Yeah.
And it went from that to like maybe a numbness. for a brief time, but then I think I needed to do it because, just as you said, I've played for so many people and I was doing so much at one time. I needed a break, and that's what. If I could say anything to other musicians, you gotta learn how to balance.
Yep.
You cannot play for all these people day in, day out. You don't never take no vacation. You don't never have no off time, because it will burn you out.
Literally.
And during that time, just me not playing for anybody, I would even give it maybe 5 months of that year, maybe even 6. I say 5. That it was just like, oh, thank God, I ain't got to get up and do that.
Right.
I'm relieved.
Yeah.
You know,
you can go where you want to go.
And I needed it. But toward the end of the hiatus, you know, I was like, okay, it's time. I need to get back in there. I need to do it. I need to get it together, get myself together. So yeah, I will say that now, quitting, you know, I still play my piano at home or whatever I had, or I might have done some small fill-in stuff here and there, but the obligation,
which is a totally different beast.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: were you ever in a situation as an organist, keys guy, excuse me, that you felt that you were in over your head? Whether it was a concert, whether it was a recording, whether it was a, can you remember a time where you were like, I can't do this, I can't play this, I can't learn this?
Yeah. And probably even in some recent years. You know, if I'll tell you in a minute but what I guess you learn what works for you and what doesn't. And some things I know that I'm not comfortable with. But being around younger musicians, more modernized, if you will, because I kind of come from an old school background. It kind of pushes you in a different direction.
For sure.
To know that while you may feel like you can't do it, it's workable.
Yeah, you actually can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just to get out of that comfort zone.
Yes. It's been many times I felt overwhelmed, like I can't do it.
Do you remember a specific time where you were there and you were literally about to walk out because you got so overwhelmed? Or you felt like the job was just too hard for you?
There was a time I did walk out. Yeah.
And I really believe you too.
Yeah. Y'all, you go ahead.
You got it.
Yeah.
Y'all got it.
Yeah. I don't have to do this.
And
I had to really pray about that, because don't when you like Ricky Smiley say, ain't no killer, but don't push me.
Yeah.
Don't take me there, because when I'm there, I say it.
Yeah.
I don't need this. I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and not that not to say that I'm better than anybody. That's not it. But I know what I can and can't handle. And that particular situation, yeah, I just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And hindsight, maybe I could have handled it differently.
For sure. Instead of just walking
out. But, you know, I've done that even with some songs. But as I've gotten older, I've learned, you know you ain't finna do it.
Yeah.
Just gonna tell the people no.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to please everybody. If you know you're not gonna do it, you can't do it, you don't want to do it, just go on and say no. It's nothing wrong with saying no. So, yeah, but I have some people have asked me to sing something, and I'll get myself geeked up like I'm gonna do it, and then when it gets down to crunch time and it ain't seeming to come out right, or I'm getting too overwhelmed or nervous, and I'll just be like, no, you got to find somebody else.
And do you think, and I'm interviewing you from an aspect of I don't know you, right? Do you think that's just a mental thing with you? Because everybody else speaks so highly of you, and not because you're a good person. You're really great at what you do, whether it's singing or playing or teaching. Do you think you get in your own way a lot?
I get in my own head a lot.
Langston just said that when we recorded.
If I could, and even with my 41-year-old self, I still get in my head about stuff, and it's just like and I'll be like, okay, you got to stop that and just do it. And when it's done, it's great. Yeah. But it's just
getting to doing it.
Getting to do it.
To
get there.
Yeah. And we've been in those situations a lot where
Absolutely.
I was like, Gerald, you can do this.
Yeah.
Bro, Gerald. And we've literally like not gotten to it because we are literally brothers, but I have to stay on Jeremy because naturally Jeremy do not want to get out of this little box that he's in.
No.
And I'm the one that be like, man, you can do that. You can do that. And he'll finally agree to it. And then when he do it, he's like,
you have pushed me in some directions that I would not have gone. Probably
I
otherwise.
know that for sure because I know if I don't ask multiple times. And it ain't because it ain't because you want to say no, because most of the time you want to do whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you will tell yourself, nah, I can't do that.
I can't do that.
And I have to ask.
And you are and don't ask me way out.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna give me too much time to think about it.
For sure.
You gotta kind of just sneak up on me.
Yeah. No, but you're great.
Yeah.
I mean, just your gifts period are great.
I appreciate it.
I want to ask you a few questions because I think they've learned a whole lot about you. But I want to ask you a few questions. I did not give him the questions beforehand, so y'all about to get to see his raw reaction to everything I'm about to ask him.
Okay.
And he's insane, by the way.